Today I'm giving the spotlight to the thriller books that I think deserve so much more hype. What's up friends? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I am gonna highlight 7 thriller books that I read, I loved, and I honestly can't believe I don't see them being recommended more often. I really think they just deserve so much more hype. Let's get right into it. The first book I'm going to start off with is Next of Kin by Kia Adbullah. I will say that out of all the books here, this is probably the one that gets at least a little bit of hype, but really nowhere near the amount that it deserves. Side note, we did just hit 5,000 subscribers on this channel, for which I am so grateful for every single one of you. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Back to the book, because this book is amazing. The story follows a woman named Layla. One day, she is asked by her brother if she can take her nephew and drop him off at his daycare on her way to work. The baby's loaded up in the back of her car and she sets out about her day. However, hours later, when she gets to work and crazy things are going on, she gets a call that the baby was never dropped off at daycare, and it's then that she realizes that she forgot and left the baby in the car. This is an incredibly heartbreaking story as she ends up on trial for the baby's murder after these events, and you go through the case and the grief that the family is going through, and it is just such a difficult read. However, I will say that this book has twist after twist after twist, and you just will not see them coming. Some people are not able to handle hard topics in books, especially when it deals with young children. But if you're someone that can handle that and enjoy a very highly emotional story, you have to add this one to your list. It is just so good. You just won't see where the story is going, and it really does get your emotions going like tenfold. I've said this before on my channel, but highly recommend anything that Kia Adbullah writes. She's incredible, and she just deserves so much more hype. The next book I have is Burner by Robert Ford, and this is a book that I've hardly ever seen anyone mention. It is another extremely dark book in a different way than the last book, but yes, it is still very dark and very disturbing. In this book, we have two separate women whose lives intersect because of the same man, and you're following each one of their different stories, and it's also told in like an interrogation room setting. One of the women we follow, her name is Audrey, and she has the most perfect life, perfect husband, a beautiful daughter, they have lots of money. But when he passes away unexpectedly, she's going through his office and his belongings and comes across a burner phone. And on this burner phone, she discovers that her husband was not at all the man that she thought he was. He's living this double life, and she's gonna dive into this life and see what exactly he's been doing behind her back, and it is insane. Like I said, this one is very dark and disturbing, but it's an absolute page turner. You won't be able to put it down. The story is told so well. It's incredibly gripping, and I just flew through this book. I really am surprised that nobody talks much about this one. I need to look into more books from this author if he happens to have any more, because I loved this one. I'd like to see what else he has. Needless to say, check your trigger warnings if you're sensitive to certain things. Make sure they're not in that book, because they probably are. Next, I'm going to move on to Don't Tell Me How to Die by Marshall Karp. I haven't talked about this one in a while on my channel, but it's a book that I constantly recommend and never have plans to stop doing so, because it's one of the best books I've ever read. Now, it is a thriller. However, if you're a fan of like literary fiction and deeply emotional books and characters with a lot of depth and personality, then you're gonna enjoy this book whether or not you like thrillers. The way I like to describe this is, I swear, this is as if Kristen Hanna wrote a thriller book. It's just one of those books that I consider a masterpiece. Okay, so it follows a woman named Maggie. You follow her in the past as a teenager, and you follow her in the present. In the present, Maggie has just been diagnosed with something and told that she has about 3 months left to live. In the past, as we're following her in her teenage years, we learn that her mother was diagnosed with the same thing and also was given a short amount of time left to live. Because of this part of the plot right here, the story is incredibly emotional and deep, and it just has so many different layers. You journey through her past as a teenager as she's navigating the idea of any day now she's gonna lose her mother. There's a sister that she has a very close relationship, and they kind of go through these emotions together. And then in the present, we have the more thrilling and sinister side of things, where she knows that she only has 3 months left to live, and the one thing that she wants to do is plan for when she's gone. She wants to find the perfect woman to replace her so that her husband can still have a companion and that her children can have a mother. The way that the timeline jumps in this book is absolute perfection. It takes you on such a journey. And I would have to say my favorite thing about this is that the characters have so much snark and humor. They are just so memorable and so easy to love. You will absolutely enjoy reading and discovering their entire journey. And then at the end of this book, it really just throws you for a loop and ties everything up so perfectly. I can't say enough good things about this book. It is fantastically written, and it deserves to be all over the internet. Then I have Such a Good Wife by Seraphina Novaglass. This author, I feel like, is talked about a lot. I feel like if you're a thriller reader, you've probably read at least one of her books, and it's more than likely you enjoyed it. But I feel like this book doesn't really get mentioned very much, and it was my favorite of hers so far. This is one of those stories that as soon as you understand what it's about, you're hooked right away, or like if you read the back of it, you want to read the book immediately. It's just really gripping. It follows a woman who on the outside appears to be a great mom and a great wife and just an overall great woman. But when the man she's having an affair with is found dead in his home, she needs to find a way to erase all of her ties to him so that nobody finds out that they were having an affair, and somehow tries to tie her to his murder. I love the idea of this one because it's just a woman who's really just living under a false narrative and letting everyone believe that she's just this great wife and great mom, and yet she has her secrets and things are fine until they're absolutely not, and now she's scrambling to cover all her tracks. This is just a fun book. I really enjoyed this one, and like I said, I feel like it's one of her lesser talked about books. Is that a real sentence? But yeah, if you haven't read a Seraphina Novaglass book, this is a perfect place to start, and if you have read one of her books, still read this one anyway, of course. Another one that is really just an all-around good book. Like, I have nothing negative to say about this one. It's The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers. First of all, this is such a short book. You can fly through this. If you're a committed reader, you can read this in one sitting. The reason why I think that's so great is because even at just 250-ish pages, the story was so full and I didn't feel like it was lacking at all. It follows a 24-year-old woman named Nick who is trying to pull her life back together after her sister had gone missing and the case was just never solved. On the night her sister went missing, her car was found over 100 miles from home, the driver's door was open, and her purse was untouched in the seat next to it. The only real clue to her disappearance was Jules Connor, another young woman from the same area who disappeared in the same way 2 weeks earlier. Both cases have gone cold, but in the story, the two remaining sisters are going to team up and see what they can uncover about their missing sisters. It's a very straightforward plot. There's not really much more going on than that, but I swear this book caught me so off guard with the twist, and I loved the way this ended. It's just a great book. I feel like you can't go wrong with reading this one. You can't go wrong with recommending it. It's short, it's full, it's a great story, has a great twist. Like I said, I just can't find anything negative to say about this book. It's overall just such a good one. 2 more books left, and this one I have talked about on my channel here recently because it's a recent read of mine and I just absolutely loved it. It's called To All Those I've Killed Before, and this is by J.L. Hyde. J.L. Hyde is a new author to me, and everything I've read from her so far has been a banger, and I cannot wait to continue reading her books. I think this author in general deserves more hype. This is another book that is just really short, and you can really read this in one sitting if you're committed. It's only 192 pages. It's about a young girl named Linnea and her aunt who is currently on her deathbed. This aunt is one of the most fun characters to read about. She's no nonsense, she has really dark humor, she tells everything like it is, and I think one of the best words that I could use to describe her would be spunky. But she is such a great character. So she's on her deathbed, and as she knows that her days are coming to an end, she wants to tell Linnea some stories about her past that she has never told anyone before. She wants to get them off her chest. As Linnea starts hearing her stories little by little, it's very clear suspicion that her aunt might be some sort of serial killer. This book it's equally entertaining and emotional, which I really, really love in a thriller. I love when a thriller can bring like emotional real life aspects into the story. This one definitely does that. It is such a great book, especially for such a short read. And this was the first book I read from J.L. Hyde, and it made me just like go and buy a whole bunch of her books and really start diving into her backlist. I loved this. It deserves so much more hype. The last one I have is a newer release by a very popular author, and it's The Hitchhikers by Chevy Stevens. When this book first came out, I wanted to read it immediately, and it took me forever to finally get to it. But when I did finally get to it, which was just this month, I was blown away by how good it was and by the fact that why does nobody talk about this one? This was a wild ride and extremely entertaining from first page to the last page. It takes place in 1976 and it has the perfect 70s vibes. It follows a husband and a wife who hop into their brand new RV and are taking a trip down the Canadian highways. Along the way, they come across two young kids who are hitchhiking, and they pick them up and decide to give them a ride. But this turns into a crazy hostage situation when it turns out that these two young kids are actually wanted for murder. The timeline and time frame of this plays into the story so well because this was before the time of cell phones and like advanced technology and communications, and it just fits into the story so perfectly. This is one of those stories you just can't put down, and also one of those stories where the characters will begin to piss you off and make you so angry. As for me personally, I love when a book can do that because I love a book that really just gets my emotions going, whether that's making me happy, making me sad, or pissing me off. Like, I'll take any of that. I just love the ride. So for this book, I thought it was fantastic. I'm really surprised that it doesn't get talked about more. But in general, Chevy Stevens tells a great story. I really need to read more of her books. There's not a single book from her that I have read that I haven't loved yet. And I know she has a lot more books. I need to get on that. That's it, guys. Those are the books. I want to know if you guys have read any of these. Let me know. Let me know if you have read them and especially what your thoughts on them were. So that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel so that you can see some more future content from me. I enjoy having you guys here so much, and the conversations that we have in the comments are always my favorite. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and know that I appreciate you all so very much.